This is a New Mexico State program that has been on the rise over the past couple of seasons under Jerry Kill. They had 10 wins last year. They were one of the better teams in Conference USA. And after being towards the bottom of the college football landscape for so long, that felt really good for them to get back towards the top. Well, 2024 is going to look a whole lot different because no longer is Jerry Kill the head coach, and pretty much every major contributor off of this team is gone from last year. How do the puzzle pieces fit in? Can New Mexico State still find a way to be one of Conference USA's better sides here in 2024? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel and, of course, welcome you to Prediction Season. It's where I predict all 34 now 134 FBS level college football teams. Guys, prediction season is almost done. We got 10 videos left, including this one right here. And I want to thank you so much for watching this video because it helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you'd like to continue to help support my channel, interact with it in any way you can, whether that's liking, commenting, sharing, or hey, if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am and you want to hear what I have to say during the college football season, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. You won't miss a video if you do so. Again, really appreciate all of your guys' support. Let's dive on in and talk about the New Mexico State Aggies here in 2024. Tony Sanchez, of course, taking over as the head coach with Jerry Kill's departure to be sort of an offensive analyst at Vanderbilt. Now, how do we do predictions around here? Well, we'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we will dive on into a game-by-game preview and predict their football schedule. So, without further ado, well, actually, I lied. There are a couple more things I do want to say. Right over here will be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, right down there below the team's logo, I've went ahead and put the team's coaching staff. Friends, let's waste no more time. Let's talk about the New Mexico State Aggies here in 2024. And like I said, pretty much every major contributor on this team from last season is gone, especially offensively, except for the offensive line. Now, we'll talk about that when we get there. We got to talk about everything behind the offensive line, the playmakers, and the most important position on the field, that is the quarterback position. And you lose everybody out of this quarterback room from last season. Diego Pavia is the main starter here, was the leading passer, 2,973 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Had a phenomenal year last season, and Blaze Berlowitz will also be gone as well. 134 yards, a touchdown, and an interception for him. But what was special about Diego Pavia was not just his passing ability, which, yes, obviously, you look at the stats, he was pretty darn good. He was also the team's leading rusher last season, 928 yards, 7 touchdowns on a team-high 177 carries. You could make the argument on why he was the group of five's Jaden Daniels from last year. If you remember what Jaden Daniels did at LSU, leading rusher there, leading passer, won the Heisman Trophy. Diego Pavia, while not a similar caliber player, is a very similar style. He's going to throw the ball a lot, he's going to run the ball a lot, and he's very good at doing both. He's going to transfer over to, well, hopefully be the starting quarterback now at a brand new program where his old head coach Jerry Kill resides in the Vanderbilt Commodores. And you also do lose Gavin Frakes, however you pronounce the last name. He's been a piece with this Aggie team in years prior. Not so much last year, but he still does leave through the portal. So, okay, you're going to get a completely revamped quarterback room here. You bring in a ton of pieces through the portal, but I think this guy, the first guy you see listed here, is going to start. You do get Deuce Hogan coming over from the Kentucky Wildcats. And although Deuce Hogan is not the most experienced collegiate quarterback, he's been with Power 4 programs for his career. Now he's coming over to play for Tony Sanchez and New Mexico State. And we'll see how he fits into the offense. Again, a lot of unknown about pretty much anyone out of this quarterback room. You do get Parker Awad and Brandon Nunez coming in. You also do have a Wake Forest transfer and Santino Marucci that's transferring over as well. But I do believe that Deuce Hogan, the guy that you saw on the thumbnail, transferring over from Kentucky, I think will end up getting that starting job. And it's going to be very interesting to see sort of how he fills the gap of Diego Pavia. Is he going to provide everything that Pavia did? No, of course not. But I still think that he's going to be a fairly solid player for this team. We'll have to see how he fits into the system. And he's going to be with an entirely new set of skill position players than what this team had last season. Because in the running back room, well, you lose a star. Pun absolutely intended. When you lose Star Thomas, he's going to go over and run the football for the Duke Blue Devils this season. He was right behind Pavia last year, 653 yards, 4 touchdowns on 112 carries. That was a team high among running backs last season. Also 200 rushing yards with a couple, or 200 receiving yards with a couple receiving touchdowns. Star Thomas was able to do everything, and you lose a pretty good piece out of the running back room. Jamani Jones and McKalen Young are going to be some other pieces that leave as well. However, your third leading rusher still does come back. So one of the few big returners to this offense is Monty Watkins, or Monte Watkins, however you pronounce that first name. Again, apologies for mispronunciations. He averaged almost 10 yards per carry last year in 59 carries, had 572 yards and 2 touchdowns, one of them being an 80-yard scamper. He ripped off big run after big run for this team last year. And is he going to average 10 yards per carry this year? Absolutely not. But I think while he might not be as raw talented as Star Thomas, at least that is my humble opinion. That's no slight to Monty Watkins. I think he's going to be an exceptional running back for this team this season. Lorenzo McMillan and Tim Gans will sit behind him, as well as a Buffalo transfer in Mike Washington. Wide receiver room, again, you lose even more talented pieces here. Jonathan Brady is gone. You also do lose Trent Hudson, Jordan Parker, and Bryce Childress. All 4 of those guys are gone and off due to the transfer portal. Brady, the team's lead receiver last year, 624 yards, 4 touchdowns. Hudson led the team in touchdown receptions last year with double digits. He had 10 of them, 551 yards and 35 catches for him last year. Jordan Parker had only 6 catches, but 235 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. He's gone. In Childress, 11 catches, 217 yards and a touchdown. You lose him, as well as Chris Bellamy, who has graduated. So right there, that's your top 1, 2, 3, 4 leading receivers among wide receivers 1, 2, 4, and 5 respectively. And then Childress was number 6. But you also do lose that third leading receiver as well. Eli Stowers, 366 yards and 2 touchdowns, is gone off this team as well. You throw in Star Thomas, another guy that had 200 receiving yards last year, and you're losing a ton of talent out of this wide receiver and pass catching room, because you also do lose another guy that had 100 yards last year. Thomas Whitford is gone out of the tight end room due to graduation. So that's a ton of talent, a ton of production leaving this room. Who does come back? Well, you still get a guy that had 200 yards receiving last year. Cordell David had 20 catches for 203 yards and 1 touchdown last year. And then it's just going to be a lot of guys that were in depth roles last year that are going to have to step up and play some bigger roles. PJ Johnson, Jordan Smith, and Donovan Faupel, hopefully I'm saying that last name right, as well as a couple freshmen. And there are some more depth pieces. I think there are a couple transfers coming in here, but I'm going to highlight the freshmen here in this video. TJ Pride and Isaiah Wright. One, if not both of them, will have to step up and play a pretty big role in the offensive unit here for the Aggies this year. And then in the tight end room, don't know what happened with this spelling. Again, apologies for whatever weird happened there, but and I forgot to fix something else too. Okay, now we should be all good in talking about Trevor Steffens. He returns as a tight end for the team this year, and you also do get Alex Lyons, who's probably going to end up being that starting tight end for you this year. Yeah, he comes in through the transfer portal. Offensive line, and this, again, your really only big returner here is Monty Watkins, and yes, you get Cordell David back, but a lot of the offensive line will be back this year. Caden Stan, the only notable loss I could find, he is often gone through the transfer portal, but pretty much everyone else does come back. That is Shiaz Pete, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name correctly, AJ Vaipulu, Cedric Claiborne, Jacob Golden, Cannon Yarrow, Louis Canepa, Shamar Jackson, and Cooper Sheehan are all coming back to this offensive line room. They all were with the Aggies last year. So, hey, and you look at what this offensive line did last year. Well, obviously, it allowed the run game to be as successful as it was. I mean, sure, you had some really good pieces like Thomas and Watkins and Jones and Pavia, but they wouldn't have been, as the stats wouldn't have been as good as they were if the offensive line was not as good as it was last season. And when you talk about sacks, I mean, maybe you can get a little bit better, but they allowed 24 sacks last year. That's 2 per game, which again, not great, not terrible, but this is an offensive line that you can expect improvement from here. Every other position, you got to kind of see what you have and how guys fit in. Watkins is going to be good. Some of the wide receiver pieces will be good, but they didn't really bring in a whole lot through the portal other than the quarterback position. So it'll be interesting to see how all the returners with the few portal pieces, as well as the freshmen coming into that wide receiver room, all sort of mesh together. I expect this offense to take a step back undoubtedly from where it was last season, and that's just because of all the talent and the head coach and Jerry Kill that you lost from last season. We'll take a deep dive now into the team's defensive side, and much like the offense, you lose a ton of guys, and you lose a ton of guys due to graduation, and especially on this defensive line here through the transfer portal. Probably won't mention many stats here because we got a lot of names to get through, so let's start out with the defensive line room. Yeah, this is a lot of names. Isaiah Reed is going to be gone due to graduation, and all of these guys are gone through the transfer portal. Gabe Peterson, Dion Wilson Jr., Sterling Webb, Nikhil Webb-Walker, Gabriel Iniguez Jr., hopefully I'm saying that name right, and Denver Warren. Woo! All those names gone and off through the portal. Peterson, 3.5 sacks last year. Wilson, a sack and a half. Webb, 4.5, or Webb Walker, I do believe. Yes. No. Sterling Webb, not Webb Walker. Sterling Webb, 4.5 sacks last season. Webb Walker with 3 sacks. Reed with 4 sacks last year. I mean, just a ton of sack production, a ton of talent leaving this defensive line. You'll be missing a ton of those pieces. So, and look, again, much like the offense, they didn't really bring a whole lot in through the transfer portal. Noah Arinze, Gabe Jones, Ciowelli, Halu, Jaden Robinson, and Devin Dyer, all names that return. But really the only notable portal piece is Naki Fahini, who probably will end up playing a pretty big part on this defensive line anyway, but it's going to be up to a lot of the depth guys to step up and play bigger roles than they had to play last season. And again, the losses, well, we're only just getting started. Linebacker room, though, you don't really lose that much, as Keyshawn Elliott has gone off through the transfer portal. Now, that is a very big and notable loss because he was the leading tackler last year, broke triple digits, 111 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 6 passes defended, which was tied for second on the team last year. So you're losing your most important piece in the linebacker room, but pretty much everyone else comes back. Sone Alpu, hopefully I'm saying that name right, probably not, so you can flame me for it in the comment section below. Again, I sincerely apologize. Buda Paletti, Tyler Martinez, Brian Jackson, and Zaire Thornton will all be back here in this linebacker room. I don't know who Zaire Thornton is, but I do know who Zaire Thornton is, a linebacker coming back for the Aggies this season. You still get a lot of pretty good talent coming back here in this room. Okay, now you want to go ahead and take a look at what you did lose out of the cornerback room and out of the safety room, your defensive back room. Again, more really good talent does leave here. Now, BJ Skolark is gone due to graduation. From what I can remember, I don't think... Oh, no, never mind. I was reading the wrong stat line there. 25 tackles, 3 sacks for him, or not 3 sacks, 3 passes defended for him last year. So a pretty important piece of that cornerback room is gone, and a couple more guys leave through the portal, and Andre Selden, as well as Reggie Akels. Again, 2 guys that had very big impacts, including Selden, 53 tackles, making him a top 10 tackler, 7 passes defended, which led the team to have an interception, and Akels was tied with Elliott for second on the team in passes defended last year. And again, only just getting started. Out of the safety room, Devin Kirkland is gone due to graduation, and all of these guys leave through the transfer portal. You could have put some of these guys in the cornerback position as well, but I put them all in the safety room because some of those guys ended up playing the nickelback position last year, which I categorize as safety. So here we go again. Miles Rouser, Jordan Vincent, J.J. Derville, Makai Miller, Torrin Union, Malachi McLean, and Jeremiah Vessel all gone out of the safety room. Woo! Again, that's a lot of names. So who comes back in the defensive back room? Well, they actually were able to bring in a lot of guys through the portal in this area of their defense. They didn't really do it with the linebacker room because they didn't have to. They got a lot of returners. Didn't do it with the defensive line. Only brought in one notable one to me. Yes, there are more that came in, but they really brought in a lot of notable guys through the portal in the defensive back room. It's a couple in the cornerback room with returners, Keontae Clinton and Josiah Charles, Miles Norwood, and Desmond Hatfield Rushton enter the portal, or I should say enter through the portal. And while Dylan Early is back here, Early, however you pronounce the last name, in the safety room, Josiah Cox, DeMarco Moorer, and Nick Session will all be returning here, or not returning, coming in through the transfer portal. So you were able to get some nice portal pieces in there to your defensive back room. And hey, kickers are people too. We got to show them some love, and the losses continue here. Ethan Albertson is gone as your primary place kicker due to graduation, and Zachary Haynes is off through the portal as the punter. So you do return George Eberly, who probably will end up being the punter this season, and then a kicking battle with Freddie Joya and Carson Zilmer will take place to see who gets primary kicking battles. I just ran through a lot of names there, and it is obvious that this defense loses a ton of talent off of last year. And again, much like the offense, I really don't see how this defense doesn't take a step back. Now, that's not to say this defense still doesn't have some good talent. I think the portal pieces there in the defensive back room, obviously, you're going to play a big impact role for you. They have to with all that you lost. The linebacker room, I think it's going to be fairly solid, even though it loses its most important piece. The defensive line, if that one transfer, maybe a couple other guys are going to step up and play really well here. Sure, maybe this is a defense that probably doesn't see as much regression as I'm thinking here in 2024, but I definitely think it's not going to be near as good. And even with all the talent you lost, the secondary really struggled last season. And with all those talented names gone, boy, imagine how much it could struggle this season. We'll run through the schedule here a little quicker than usual because I rambled on a little bit, but I got to tell you how it works first. Any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Aggies are going to win fairly easily. I don't think I have any of those, but I may surprise myself. Any game in yellow will be a close competitive game, but one that the Aggies will win. Any game in red is a loss. They're going to start out with a win against Southeast Missouri State. Now, SEMO losing some pretty good pieces off of last year's team. They're going to be a solid FCS group, but I think New Mexico State's going to be itching to start off the Tony Sanchez era with a win here, and I think they're going to be able to get there, but the schedule gets hard really, really fast. On the road against Liberty, or not on the road, that's a home game against Liberty, but on the road, home game, I don't think it matters. I think you lose that one. Liberty's got Quentin Cooley back. They got Caden Salter back. A ton of really vital talent offensively and defensively surrounding those two main pieces. And you just got an absolutely phenomenal head coach over there whose name is escaping my mind right now, so I apologize for that. But Liberty, Jamie Chadwell. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but Liberty's going to be one of the best teams in Conference USA this year. That is a loss for New Mexico State. You'll also lose on the road to Fresno State. Now, I know Jeff Tedford stepped down, and yes, there are going to be some things that change with that program, such as what they run and the philosophy, and whatever have you. Regardless of that, this is still going to be one of the most talented teams in the Mountain West Conference this season. Mikey Keene is back. You get some really good wide receiver pieces, not only coming back, but coming in through the portal. Defensively, you got some really, really nice talent. And even though without Jeff Tedford, who was one of the better head coaches in the Mountain West Conference, they're still going to have one of the best teams in the Mountain West Conference, so that's a loss there. A loss against the Sam Houston Bearcats, spelled with a K. Sam Houston's going to be better than they were last year. I don't know if I can say they're going to be much better or significantly better, but they are going to be better. Jace Bauer is coming over from Central Michigan to play quarterback, and Sam Houston's got some pretty nice talent on it that I think will be able to help elevate them from where they were last year and elevate them, especially here at home against the New Mexico State Aggies. And then it is the rivalry game. New Mexico State gets New Mexico at home, and both of these teams are going to be looking to sort of build back up. Now, I think it's no secret that New Mexico State's not going to be as good as they were last season, and New Mexico, well, they're starting the Bronco Mendenhall era, and it's a program that during some points, and they had some moments where they felt like they were trending in the right direction. Overall, just didn't work out with their former head coach. Now Bronco Mendenhall is back coaching college football. He has been able to build programs up wherever he's been. And even though his first season is going to be a struggle, meaning only 1, 2, maybe 3 wins, New Mexico, I think, is going to be able to win this game against New Mexico State. It couples with all the talent that New Mexico State lost versus some of the talent that, again, even though I don't think New Mexico is going to have the best record at the end of the day, they could actually have one of the worst records in college football this season. Well, you are getting some pretty important pieces back. You're completely retooling that offensive line that I think is going to work in their advantage. Defensively, a lot of talented transfers. I think once Bronco Mendenhall gets his system in place, gets his guys in there, they'll be able to take off even more. But I'm just calling a little bit of a sheer upset here. New Mexico goes on the road and beats New Mexico State, even though it's a very winnable game for the Aggies. Then you get your first bye week. You're on a 4-game losing streak. Let's make it 5. You lose this game against Jacksonville State, and even though Zion Webb is gone, you still got Logan, some others there. A lot of really talented pieces, not only coming back around this offense, but also that are coming in through the transfer portal in that wide receiver room. Defensively, you return a ton of top talent from last year, and Jacksonville State, the FCS to FBS transition has been a piece of cake for them. They will be able to keep that up this season. Now, you're 1-5. You lose a couple games that you probably felt like you could win against Sam Houston, against New Mexico. You get a home game against Louisiana Tech, and you're going to get back on track right here. I do think you're going to be able to pick up this win against the Bulldogs at home. And this is just, again, sort of one of those games where I like a lot of the talent that Louisiana Tech has. While I'm not in love with it, they're going to be one of those teams that sort of sits in limbo there. Are they going to get to a bowl game? Are they not? They might have to pull off an upset in order to do so. They're going to be one of those teams that sit sort of in the middle of Conference USA. Jack Turner playing quarterback. You get some really talented portal pieces in, but there are going to be a couple games where things don't go as planned for the Bulldogs. One of them will be against the New Mexico State Aggies. But New Mexico, let's start the losing streak. up again. You got to go on the road after your second bye week here, and you will lose to the Florida International Panthers. Really talented team this season that, again, should continue to see their improvement. And by the way, just announced, I think it was yesterday, that Pitbull is buying the naming rights for that stadium. So, pretty good stuff there. But K1 Jenkins is going to play quarterback there. He's a name to watch in Conference USA. Lots of good talent. Florida International will be pretty solid this season. Western Kentucky, even though they lost Malachi Corley, even though they lost Austin Reed, if TJ Finley, they brought him in from Texas State, puts up a stat line similar to what he did with GJ Kinney's group last year, well, this is going to be a Western Kentucky team that still sees bountiful amounts of success, and they'll be one of the better teams in Conference USA this season. Again, loss train continues to go. You got to play a Power 4 program, and it's going to be probably one of the better ones there in the Texas A&M Aggies. Mike Elko coming in. I think he's going to be ready to win in year one. If Connor Wigman can take a step forward in his quarterback progression and just continue his development and play probably the best. They're probably going to ask for the best season of his career this year. Texas A&M can be a real contender in the SEC. They'll at very least be a solid, if not good, football team. A&M will beat New Mexico State. Middle Tennessee will beat New Mexico State. Watch out for Nicholas Vadiato at quarterback. Really dangerous guy. And even though he's got pretty much an entire new cast of wide receivers to work with here, there are some good returners. I think the chemistry will be formed at this point in the season, and New Mexico State will lose to Middle Tennessee. But I got New Mexico State good for 3, maybe 4 wins this year. Got to find a third win somewhere. Maybe it's the game against New Mexico, but I'm giving it right here to the game against the UTEP Miners. Scotty Walden is trying to implement his system over there, and this is just another one of those games where I feel like UTEP has better talent. I feel like UTEP just going to be a better side this year. I really like Scotty Walden. Got a lot of good portal pieces coming in, but New Mexico State's going to have some performances where they put it all together. So I got 3-9 for the Aggies this year, which obviously is a huge drop off from where they were last year. But I don't know. Again, Aggie fans should be wary this season. This is a team that I feel like can still make a pretty solid push, and maybe 5-7 is lowballing what this team is capable of, just with the lack of portal pieces you brought in, with the amount of talent that's going to have to step up right away and play some big impact minutes, all the chemistry that has to be formed. You lost a ton of guys from last year. I just don't see this season going as well as a couple seasons prior have, and New Mexico State's going to have to start that rebuild all over again. At least that's my humble opinion. I got 3-9, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see you guys in the next video where we talk about the Akron Zips. Goodbye.